The next era of Formula One will not be decided by engines alone. It will be decided inside the driver's head. And that's why the most dangerous weapon heading into 2026 isn't Mercedes horsepower, Ferrari ambition, or Red Bull's aero genius. It's Max Verstappen's driving brain. Because while everyone is arguing about kilowatts, batteries, and the 50-50 power split, Verstappen has already been racing in a world where decision-making matters more than raw grip. And here's the uncomfortable truth for the rest of the grid. The 2026 regulations are about to turn Formula One into a cognitive sport. And Max Verstappen might already be years ahead. The headline change is simple but brutal. From 2026, roughly half of an F1 car's lap time will come from electric power. Not in theory, not on paper, in reality. Drivers will manage deployment, harvesting, braking balance, throttle timing, lift and coast windows, and energy recovery more aggressively than ever before. And if that sounds like a lot to juggle at 300 kilometers per hour, that's because it is. This isn't just a technical reset, it's a mental one. And that's where the tension begins. Here's the part nobody wants to say out loud. Most drivers on the grid were trained in an era where the car did the thinking. Active systems, predictable grip, stable aero platforms. The modern hybrid era already exposed gaps in adaptability. Remember how many drivers struggled in the early turbo hybrid years? Remember how energy management separated champions from pretenders? Now multiply that complexity by 2 and ask yourself one uncomfortable question. Who actually thrives when the car becomes unstable, unpredictable, and mentally exhausting? Before you answer, consider this. Verstappen has spent his entire career preferring cars that fight back. Cars that rotate aggressively, cars that punish hesitation. Engineers have openly admitted that Red Bull cars are designed around a narrow operating window that only one driver consistently extracts. Not because others are slow, but because they don't process risk the same way. Verstappen doesn't wait for certainty. He calculates probability in real time, and that matters more in 2026 than ever before. But here's what nobody is talking about yet. The 50-50 power split doesn't just change acceleration, it changes braking. It changes corner entry. It changes how late you can commit. Energy harvesting through the rear axle fundamentally alters brake feel. Drivers will experience variable deceleration depending on battery state, harvest modes, and deployment strategy. That means the brake pedal you press in lap 1 may not behave the same way in lap 25. For some drivers, that inconsistency will be terrifying. For Verstappen, it's familiar territory. Ask yourself this: how many times have you seen Max adjust his braking mid-corner, correct a slide instinctively, and still hit the apex? That isn't talent alone, that's pattern recognition under stress. That's the ability to predict car behavior before it happens. And in a regulation set where simulation data is limited, testing is restricted, and track time is precious, drivers who learn fastest will dominate early. And here's the first cliffhanger. What if the 2026 grid isn't separated by lap time, but by reaction time? Now let's escalate this. The FIA wants drivers to lift more on straights to harvest energy. That means more coasting, more timing windows, more tactical decisions every lap. Drivers will have to decide when to defend, when to attack, and when to sacrifice lap time to charge the battery. This isn't wheel-to-wheel racing as we know it. It's cognitive load racing. And historically, the drivers who break first under mental strain are not the ones with the least talent. They're the ones who need consistency. Quick pattern interrupt. Be honest. How many drivers do you trust to make 5 correct decisions in a row while being attacked, managing battery and dealing with dirty air? Exactly. This is where Verstappen's reputation for aggression gets misunderstood. People think aggression means pushing harder. It doesn't. It means committing earlier. Verstappen doesn't react late. He commits early and adjusts. That's why he looks fearless. In reality, he's already accepted the risk and moved on to the next calculation. In 2026, that mindset will be gold. There's another layer. Hybrid racing rewards drivers who understand energy as a currency, not a resource. Watch Verstappen during races where Red Bull isn't dominant. He doesn't just defend, he drains rivals. He forces them into inefficient deployment. He positions his car to ruin exits, not entries. That's chess, not checkers. And in a world where electric deployment windows define overtakes, that intelligence becomes decisive. Here's a stat that should make rivals uncomfortable. In recent seasons, Verstappen consistently ranks among the lowest in unnecessary battery depletion, while still producing the highest average lap pace during race stints. That means he's not just fast, he's efficient. And efficiency is about to matter more than ever. But let's flip the narrative for a moment. What about the argument that 2026 will neutralize driver advantage because everyone will struggle equally? Sounds logical. It's also wrong. New regulations don't level the field. They expose weaknesses. They always have. 2014 exposed drivers who couldn't manage turbo lag and energy. 2022 exposed drivers who couldn't handle unstable ground effect platforms. 2026 will expose drivers who can't think fast enough. And yes, this is where we pause and say it out loud. If you're enjoying this deep dive, hit subscribe now because the next era of F1 is going to be psychological warfare, and we're going to break it all down. Consider it your pre-season advantage. Back to the story. There's a reason Verstappen adapted faster than anyone to ground effect cars. He didn't wait for perfect balance. He drove around imperfection. Engineers have said he gives feedback in outcomes, not feelings. Instead of saying the car feels bad, he says, I'm losing time here because of this behavior. That's a subtle difference. But in a development race constrained by cost caps and limited testing, that clarity accelerates progress. Now imagine that feedback loop applied to a brand new power unit concept. Teams won't just need fast drivers, they'll need translators between physics and performance. Drivers who understand why something happened, not just that it happened. And that's where Verstappen's driving brain becomes an engineering tool. But here's the tension point nobody wants to confront yet. What if the 2026 rules don't just favour Max, but break others? Think about younger drivers who have grown up in ultra-stable junior formulas. Think about veterans who rely on rhythm and consistency. The moment-to-moment variability of energy deployment could destroy confidence. And once confidence goes, lap time follows. This isn't hypothetical. We've already seen it in endurance racing, in Formula E, even in early hybrid F1 seasons. Now, a quick reality check. Do you think every driver on the grid is excited about managing lift and coast targets while fighting for position? Or do you think some are already dreading it? Here's another pattern interrupt. If 2026 racing becomes about timing rather than bravery, who do you trust more? Now we approach the cliffhanger into Act 3, because there's one final layer that makes this even more dangerous for Verstappen's rivals, the mental fatigue factor. Cognitive load doesn't just slow you down, it accumulates. Over a season, drivers managing constant decision-making will make mistakes. Small ones at first, a missed deployment window, a late defense, a compromised exit. Verstappen's advantage has always been consistency under pressure. He doesn't spike emotionally. He doesn't spiral. He resets instantly. And in a championship decided by marginal gains, that could be everything. Let's bring it home. The 2026 regulations are being sold as a technical revolution. Cleaner, smarter, more sustainable. But beneath the marketing is a brutal truth. This is the most mentally demanding Formula One era ever designed. And the driver best equipped for that challenge isn't the most polished. It's the most adaptable. Verstappen has already proven he can dominate when the car is difficult, when the rules change, and when others hesitate. The power split doesn't scare him. It empowers him. Because while others are thinking about what the car is doing, he's already thinking about what comes next. So here's the real question. When the lights go out in 2026, will the fastest driver win, or will the fastest thinker? I want your take on this. Do you think the 2026 hybrid era will expose driver intelligence more than raw speed? And who do you think adapts best besides Max? Drop your predictions in the comments because this debate is just getting started. And hey, if you like this breakdown, tap that like button. It tells the algorithm you want more deep dive F1 content like this. No pressure. Just saying. Because in our next video, we're going even deeper. We're breaking down how active aero and energy deployment could completely change overtaking, and why one team might already be planning for it. Click that video next. Trust me, you don't want to miss it.